What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. And as I promised you in my Week 8 video for my NFL Pick Show, that I was going to put my Pro Bowl ballot on that video. However, what I'm realizing is the video for my Pro Bowl ballot is like 20 minutes long. 20, 25, maybe even a half hour long. So as opposed to putting it on that video, I'm going to make it its own separate video. Here it comes. I have not yet put in my Pro Bowl card, but I have it completely filled out on the computer here. And what we're going to do is go over and take a look at my Pro Bowl picks for every single section. I'm going to start with the special teams players, work up through the defense, and then work through the offense. So starting with special teams only players. In the AFC, selected Edgar Jones from Kansas City. And for the NFC, I took Croy Berman out of Atlanta. Looking at the kick returners, you got one vote on each side. For the AFC, honestly, it's a no-brainer. Joshua Cribbs averaging 30.9 yards on kickoffs, 14.3 yards on punt returns, and both of those, I believe, are among the league leaders in the AFC. Taking a look at the NFC, Randall Cobb out of Green Bay has done some great things receiving the ball, but has also done some great things on his returns, both kickoffs and punts. So Randall Cobb gets my vote in the NFC. Joshua Cribbs, no-brainer in the AFC. Looking at the punters, again, got one vote on each side. For the AFC, I took Brett Kern out of Tennessee. 33 punts on the year, averaging 47.8 yards per punt. Longest punt of 63, has 14 punts inside the 20. So that's a main reason why I ended up taking him. And in the NFC rather, Dave Zastudil out of Arizona. He has been getting it done for a number of years here. 44 punts, averaging over 46.5 yards per punt. 18 punts inside of the 20, along on the year of 68 yards. Zastudil was my runaway favorite in the NFC in terms of punters. And taking a look at kickers now to end off special teams. Again, you got one vote on each side. In the AFC, I ended up taking the rookie sensation out of Baltimore, Justin Tucker. 14 of 15 on the year, his long of 56. Tucker's having a great year. He was perfect for quite some time. That's broken now, obviously. On the NFC side, there were a number of really good choices. I ended up going with Minnesota's Blair Walsh. 16 of 17 on the year, has a long of 55. Minnesota's doing some really great things this year, and I decided to reward Blair Walsh for his consistency kicking the football. So we're going to go to the defensive side now. We're going to start in the secondary. Free safeties on each side, you got one vote. Taking a look at the AFC, again, there were a number of really solid options. I ended up going with a guy that is a little more balanced. His tackle numbers might not be up towards the top, but he's getting it done forcing fumbles, getting it done picking the ball off. Jairus Byrd out of Buffalo. And I wouldn't think I was going to have any Bills on the defensive side of the ball, but 37 tackles on the year, forced 3 fumbles, and he's picked off 3 balls. He leads all free safeties in the AFC in interceptions, and I believe he also leads in forced fumbles. He does, at least out of the eligible ones that you can pick for the Pro Bowl. And in the NFC, kind of the same deal. It's a guy that doesn't have the tackle numbers of some of the guys up towards the top, but just his all-around game, he's all over the field. Rondé Barber out of Tampa Bay. Rondé Barber is another guy that's been doing this thing for quite some time. Second in the NFC in interceptions with 3. He's got a sack on the season. He's got 30 tackles, so right around 3 to 4 tackles a game. Just a very calming, constant presence in the secondary for Tampa Bay, so I rewarded Rondé Barber with a vote onto my Pro Bowl team. Taking a look at the strong safety position, once again, you only get one vote. In the AFC, I couldn't not go with Bernard Pollard. Second only to Jordan Babineau in tackles in the AFC. He's got a sack. He's got an interception. And in the NFC, it was a runaway for me, no question about it. William Moore out of Atlanta. all over the field. He's a ball hawk with 2 interceptions. He's forced a fumble. He's got a sack. He's 4th in the NFC in tackles for strong safeties with 40. So between 4 to 5 a game. William Moore has been everywhere on the field for Atlanta this year, so he gets my vote in the NFC. Moving on to cornerbacks, this starts where you start voting in 2 or 3 at each position. You got 3 votes for cornerback for each side. Taking a look at the AFC, I started off with Jason McCourty out of Tennessee, 3rd among AFC cornerbacks in tackles with 39, got 2 interceptions on the year. I moved down to Kerry Williams from Baltimore, 1 fewer tackle than McCourty at 38, but he's got a sack and has 3 interceptions on the year. A very good season so far for Kerry Williams. And my 3rd and final cornerback from the AFC, a little bit out of left field, Sheldon Brown out of Cleveland. Sheldon Brown has been another one of those cornerbacks that's been doing more than just tackling or doing more than just picking a ball off. He's got a little bit of everything, and I like that all-around sort of flavor on my Pro Bowl team. Taking a look at the NFC, I started with, out of St. Louis, Cortland Finnegan, and Cortland Finnegan has just been another one of those guys that is very disruptive in the defense. He's all over the place. 47 tackles on the year. He's got a sack, and he's got 3 interceptions, which I believe second to another guy that's on my Pro Bowl team. So it's second in the NFC in interceptions. The guy that's leading in interceptions is also on my Pro Bowl team. Tim Jennings out of Chicago, the Bears. 4 interceptions on the year, got good tackle numbers with 31. And the 3rd and final Pro Bowl spot at cornerback in the NFC, Antoine Winfield out of Minnesota. He leads the NFC in tackles for cornerbacks with 55. He's got a sack. He's got 2 interceptions. Antoine Winfield is getting it done this year. So he is my 3rd and final cornerback in the NFC. Moving over to outside linebackers, you got 3 votes on each side. Outside linebackers in the AFC started with Nick Barnett out of Buffalo, second only to Akeem Ayers in tackles for outside linebackers in the AFC with 57. He's got 2 full sacks on the year, has also forced 2 fumbles. So a good season going so far for Nick Barnett. That is 2 Buffalo Bills on the defensive side of the football that I've put on my Pro Bowl team for 2013. Moving down, Wesley Woodyard from the Denver Broncos. 48 tackles on the year. He's got 2 full sacks, and he's picked off a ball, and those are very good numbers for the outside linebacker position. And my 3rd and final outside linebacker, I went back and forth on this. I had a couple of different choices in there before I ended up settling on who I settled on. I really wanted to go with Koamisi out of Miami, back to the Denver Broncos, and take Von Miller. He's only got 26 tackles on the year, which is not great tackle numbers, but 6 full sacks for an outside linebacker. I mean, that would be good numbers for a defensive end, much less an outside linebacker. So 6 sacks. He's got a forced fumble on the year. I couldn't not take Von Miller as my 3rd and final outside linebacker in the AFC. Moving over to the NFC now, again, 3 outside linebackers. Starting it off, Lance Briggs in Chicago, 37 tackles. He's got a sack. He's forced 2 fumbles. He's picked off 2 balls. Moving down to Chad Greenway, leads all outside linebackers in tackles with 68. He's got 2 full sacks on the year. Chad Greenway is a tackle machine at the outside linebacker position. Minnesota Vikings could not leave him off the team. I had to take the guy that leads all outside linebackers in sacks this year, Clay frigging Matthews. It's exactly the same as Von Miller. Tackle numbers are not the greatest, but given the fact that he's got 9 full sacks on the year, he's also got a forced fumble, I'd be an idiot to leave Clay Matthews off of my Pro Bowl team. Moving to the interior now, the inside linebackers. Starting with the AFC, I get 2 votes at inside linebacker, and one of them is going to the guy that leads all interior linebackers in tackles in either the AFC or the NFC, Gerard Mayo out of New England. 72 tackles on the year. He's got a sack. He's forced 2 fumbles. He's got an interception. And my other choice for inside linebacker from the AFC is DeQuell Jackson out of Cleveland. Another Cleveland Brown on my Pro Bowl team this year. 46 tackles. He's got 3 full sacks. He's got 2 interceptions on the year. DeQuell Jackson is a beast for the Browns. Moving to the NFC, a high sack machine from the inside linebacker position. We are looking at Darrell Washington from Arizona. 6 full sacks on the year. He's forced 2 fumbles. He's got 62 tackles, which ranks 3rd amongst all inside linebackers. And the other choice, I wanted to give a shout to Chase Blackburn, inside linebacker, New York Football Giants. 42 tackles on the year, got 2 full sacks, 2 forced fumbles. He's picked a ball off this year. Chase Blackburn having a great season, and I rewarded him with a spot on my Pro Bowl team. Moving on to the defensive line, we're going to start with the defensive tackles. And in the AFC, I started with the guy that is leading the AFC in sacks at the defensive tackle position, which is Geno Atkins out of Cincinnati. Tackle numbers are not the greatest. It's only 22. He hasn't forced any fumbles. I back that up with Haloti Ngata out of Baltimore. 31 tackles on the year, so slightly better tackle numbers than Geno Atkins. And the third guy that I've got on my AFC Pro Bowl roster at defensive tackle is Atiba Rubin out of Cleveland. Another friggin' Cleveland Brown, but how can you not have a guy as big as Atiba Rubin? Dude is a tank. I want that size, that intimidation, that power. He's got a full sack on the year. He's forced a fumble. I want Atiba Rubin on my defensive line. Taking a look at the NFC side of things for defensive tackles, started off with Dwan Edwards out of Carolina. 24 tackles on the year. He's got 3.5 full sacks. Moved down to Henry Melton out of Chicago. 18 tackles on the year, which is not the greatest numbers, but 4.5 full sacks and a forced fumble. And we back up those numbers again, relatively low sort of tackle numbers. Got to take Justin Smith out of San Francisco. 35 full tackles on the year. He's going to be that run-stopping force in right on the defensive line there for my NFC Pro Bowl team. And then we take a look at the quote-unquote sexy position of the defensive line, the defensive ends. 3 votes on each side. Start with the AFC again. We're going back to the Denver Broncos. Elvis Dumervil, 28 tackles on the year, 5 full sacks, and an amazing 4 forced fumbles for Elvis Dumervil on the at the defensive end position this year. We move down to Chandler Jones from the New England Patriots. 31 tackles on the year, 5 full sacks. He's forced 3 fumbles. And, of course, at the defensive end position in the AFC, you can't not take J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt is the one definitive best defensive end, maybe in all of football, but certainly in the NFC. High tackle numbers. I believe he leads all defensive ends. He does in tackles, leads them all in sacks with 9.5. Can't not put J.J. Watt on that team. Move over to the NFC, and I'm going to start with Jason Pierre-Paul for the New York Football Giants. 26 tackles on the year, 4.5 sacks, got a forced fumble. Of course, you saw him return that interception last week against Dallas. Returned it for a pick 6. Chris Clemens out of Seattle, 21 tackles, 7 full sacks, got a forced fumble. Believe he leads all NFC defensive ends in sacks with 7.0. Again, you're looking for big sack numbers. Third and final, got to take John Abraham. Only got 15 tackles on the year. His tackle numbers are not very good at all, but 6 full sacks, and he's forced 3 fumbles. That is a potential of 3 takeaways. So John Abraham having a very good year. Have to have him on that NFC Pro Bowl team. Taking a look at the offensive line now. With the AFC, you get 2 picks at center. I took Dan Coppin out of Denver and Nick Mangold out of New York. That is based on the fact that if you look at those 2 teams combined this year, I believe they've only had 5 runs up the middle go for negative yardage combined between the two teams. Taking a look at the NFC centers, I took Jonathan Goodwin out of San Francisco and the immortal Jeff Saturday, now playing in Green Bay. Taking a look at the guards now, you got 3 votes on each side. And for the guards and the tackles, I'll just let you know now, I looked at the 2 teams that have been the most successful running the ball from side to side in order to pick these guards. So it might be a little wonky for you, but take it as it is. 2 guards, I took 2 guards off of the Baltimore Ravens offensive line, Bobby Williams and Marshall Yanda. And for the 3rd and final guard, I took Luis Vasquez out of San Diego. Taking a look at the NFC, the 3 guards that I took for the NFC, Mike Iupati out of San Francisco, I have Alex Boone out of San Francisco, and Justin Blaylock from the Atlanta Falcons. Moving over to tackles, and for tackles, basically I wanted to look at which team's quarterbacks are getting hit the least. It's an indication of very good tackle play. We looked at Ryan Clady and Orlando Franklin from the Denver Broncos. Peyton Manning has not been hit or taken down very much this year, backing them up with Cordy Glenn out of Buffalo. And on the NFC side of things, I have Will Beatty and Sean Locklear from the New York Football Giants, backed up by DeMar Dotson from Tampa Bay. Move to the tight end position, and now we're starting to get into some of the offensive numbers here. In the AFC, you get to pick 2. How can you not go with Gronk? Guy screws porn stars for a living. Rob Gronkowski, 35 catches, 434 yards, 12.5-yard average, and 5 touchdowns. Have to go with Gronk. At the backup at the tight end position, I'm giving the nod to Owen Daniels in Houston. 33 catches, 416 yards, averaging 0.2 of a yard more per reception than Gronkowski with 4 touchdowns. Moving to the NFC side of things, Tony Gonzalez, the immortal, the ageless Tony Gonzalez. 43 catches for 430 yards, 10-yard average exactly, with 4 scores there in Atlanta. Vernon Davis in San Francisco. Doesn't have a ton of catches, only has 23 on the year, but has a higher average than any of the other 3 tight ends that I've put in the Pro Bowl. 340 yards, an average of 14.8 per reception, and 4 touchdowns. Those are my tight ends that I have put on my Pro Bowl team. Moving to the fullback position, you only get 1 vote on each side. Fullbacks are really understated. On the AFC, I took Baltimore's Vonta Leach. He's only got 3 carries on the year, but those 3 carries, he's gone for 15 yards, an average of 5.0, and one of those 3 carries has gone into the end zone for a touchdown. And on the NFC side, how can you not go with John Kuhn? 3.5 yards a carry, scored a touchdown in Green Bay. They love him in Green Bay. John Kuhn, my NFC fullback. Moving to the wide receivers, you get to pick 4 wide receivers on each side. Going to look at the AFC, and I took the 3 guys in the AFC who have more than 600 yards receiving, because honestly, how can you not? Wes Welker, Reggie Wayne, and AJ Green are 3 of my 4 AFC wide receivers. Very few wide receivers in the AFC or in the whole NFL can use their speed to take the tops off of defenses quite like Torrey Smith. So I had to take Torrey Smith as my 4th wide receiver. Only 25 catches on the year, but 435 yards, an average of over 17 yards per reception, and he's hit the end zone 4 times. In the NFC, we take a look at the only guy in the NFC to have more than 600 yards receiving. That is Victor Cruz. Victor Cruz absolutely on my Pro Bowl team, especially with those 7 touchdowns. Percy Harvin, as I've called him, one of the most dynamic wide receivers in all of football. 53 receptions, 577 yards, averaging about 11 yards per reception with 3 touchdowns. Marquise Colston out of New Orleans. Not a lot of things to cheer about New Orleans these days, except for Colston, who's having a phenomenal season. 35 catches, 517 yards, almost 15 yards per reception with 5 scores. Now, the 4th and final wide receiver that I am putting on my NFC Pro Bowl team is Vincent Jackson. Doesn't have a ton of catches on the year, but is leading the NFC by more than 2 full yards per reception. 27 catches, 586 yards on just 27 catches. Almost 22 yards per reception with 5 touchdowns. He is the fourth and final wide receiver on my NFC Pro Bowl team. We move to the running backs. You get to select 3 on each side. AFC, how can you not go with Arian Foster? No reason not to. Stephen Ridley out of New England. How can you not put Stephen Ridley on this Pro Bowl team? For a team that is not at all centered around a run game, Stephen Ridley has put up almost 600 yards and has hit the end zone 4 times. I love what I've seen from Stephen Ridley. He is on my Pro Bowl team. And my third and final running back, C.J. Spiller from the Buffalo Bills, averaging over 7.25 yards per carry on the season. I know he's had some injury problems, but even in the reduced amount of time that he's played, averaging, again, 7.3 yards a carry, has hit the end zone 5 times. C.J. Spiller is a beast, and it hurt me to pick him over Ray Rice. It really did. But I had to give it to C.J. Spiller. He's the third running back on my AFC Pro Bowl team. Take a look at the NFC. Very simple. There's 3 guys in the NFC that have run for more than 650 yards, and all 3 of them are on my team. Alfred Morris, Marshawn Lynch, and Adrian Peterson. In the AFC, there is only one quarterback that has thrown for more than 2,000 yards. That is Tom freaking Brady. And Tom Brady is absolutely on my Pro Bowl team. 2,100 yards, 14-3 touchdown to interception ratio. QB rating of around 97. Peyton Manning, comeback player of the millennium. 1,800 yards, 14-4 touchdown to interception ratio. QB rating of 105. Peyton Manning has been surprising everybody this year. He is my number 2 quarterback on my AFC Pro Bowl team. And for the third and final one, again, kind of bopped back and forth from a couple of guys. I was really high on Joe Flacco before the last couple of games. Why is no one talking about Ben Roethlisberger? Ben Roethlisberger is having a phenomenal season. 1,765 yards, 11-3 touchdown to interception ratio. QB rating higher than Tom Brady at 98.6. Roethlisberger, you're getting a shout out from me. You're the third quarterback on my Pro Bowl team. Picking the 3 quarterbacks in the NFC was the hardest thing that I had to do for this whole Pro Bowl. Eli Manning, Drew Brees, and Aaron Rodgers. Eli Manning and Drew Brees, the only 2 NFC quarterbacks to throw for at least 2,000 yards so far. Aaron Rodgers co-leading the NFC in touchdown passes with Drew Brees at 19, and Rodgers with a quarterback rating of almost 110, which is just totally off the charts. A little bit of interception problems with both Eli and Drew Brees, but at the same time, just by bulk yardage, I had to put them in. And I feel bad that I didn't put Matt Ryan in. I really should have, but I'm not going to have him on my Pro Bowl team. It's Eli Manning, Drew Brees, and Aaron Rodgers as the 3 quarterbacks in the NFC. And that is it for you, folks. That is the marathon that is my 2013 NFL Pro Bowl team. My vote has been recorded. See you later.